In this lesson, we're going to cover file sharing. So previously we used NTFS permissions to secure the file system. However, we need to make the content available to other users outside of our local machine. The way we do that is we create a share. And I previously accessed that in the last example. For example, on my data, if I go to Properties, Sharing, you'll see I actually have it shared as a path. So under Advanced Sharing, I can set the name when I created it. I can set permissions. And I can also set caching policies. So this is for clients that when they access this content, it can be configured to actually locally cache on their boxes. So if they disconnect from the network, such as a laptop scenario, the data would be available to them. And then when they reconnect, any changes would synchronize up. So this is very useful for their home folders, for example. Now by default, you actually have file shares created on a brand new server. If I open up a command prompt and just type net share, you'll actually see a number of dollar shares, $, $E. These are created by default and are basically considered administrative shares. They allow an administrator to connect in, but they're not visible by browsing the server. Any share ending in dollar is hidden. So this is a good tip if you wish to create a share and you don't want it readily available to users, just add $1 to the end of that share name and they won't be able to see it. So I created that share. Now notice you could create permissions on the share. However, remember we're securing the data at the NTFS level. Using share permissions as well is very much redundant. So generally a best practice to again avoid confusion is you can leave the share permissions as everyone has full control. But remember, the most restrictive permission set would win here. So even though the share has full control, when the user tries to access it, they're going to be restricted to what the NTFS file system has configured. Likewise, if NTFS was configured as full control, but the share was restricted, they would be limited to the share permissions. But obviously, you want to focus on not just the file share, you want to focus on there might be different ways to access that file system. So I can use this. I can use Explorer to share that out, but also through Server Manager, I actually have a much richer sharing interface. So I can see this same content through Server Manager. I can configure things like quotas. Again, I could do that through Explorer. But I also have some additional capabilities. If I look at the properties, I have things like settings that enable access-based enumeration. So remember back to my user account. I could see this HR folder even though I have no permissions to it. Access-based enumeration will actually hide that folder if I don't have permission. To summarize, we want to be using groups for all of our permissioning. So think NTFS level, fine-grained control of the access. The share should just be a higher level. Now, if no one has, for example, full control on the file system, then you could certainly consider turning off full control at the share level. But you always want the share permission to kind of be the sum level of everything applied at NTFS. Be very, very careful of using that deny permission. I've seen many environments where they just say everyone is denied and then go and add specific groups or people to have permission, not realizing that the deny, remember, takes precedence. An explicit deny will override all those explicit allows. And so by setting everyone deny, you've just locked everyone out of that object.